Good evening and welcome to the June 25th, 2024 meeting of the Bridgewater-Raritan Regional Board of Education meeting at the Wade Building. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Law of New Jersey, notice of this June 25th meeting of the Bridgewater-Raritan Regional Board of Education was posted electronically on the district website and provided on June 21st by sending a 48-hour written notice to the Courier News, Star Ledger, Bridgewater Town Clerk, Raritan Borough Clerk, and by posting on the bulletin board in the Harmon V. Wade Administration Building. If you're able, please join me in this pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you mind calling the roll, please?
Mrs. Freelander? Absent. Mrs. Lee? Absent. Mr. Yoshi?
Here.
Mrs. Calistri? Absent. Mr. Singer?
Here.
Ms. Hasuna?
Here.
Mr. Pepe?
Here.
Ms. Loughran? Absent. Mr. Walker?
Here. We have 5 members, so we have a quorum, correct?
Correct.
Great, thank you. Whereas a discussion of the board is required on matters that are exceptions to the requirement that a public body holds its meeting in public, and whereas the topics of discussion are BRPA grievance and personnel, whereas it is expected that the details of the discussion may be made public as soon as the issues may be acted on publicly, be it resolved that the board enters into closed session at the time. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We're now in closed session. I normally would ask for the student representatives report, but they all have graduated, so we no longer have any student representative. We thank them for what they did and wish them the best. But next up on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Mr. Beers.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. So tonight on everyone's agenda, there's an attachment for the student safety data report. This is presented to the Board of Education every 6 months. And I just ask you to, I know prior to the meeting, I'm sure you've taken a look at it, but it will come up for a vote. And what happens is it does track certain disciplinary actions and harassment, intimidation, and bullying throughout the district. And we report that to the state on a 6-month interval. So as we know, we had graduation last week. And now that we are in our first full week without students, there's a buzz of a different type throughout the district, and that's of construction. If you've driven around any of the schools, you'll see that there's quite a lot of activity that really started the moment teachers and students left last week. So just a quick overview of what has started this week and what will start in the next couple of weeks. If you drive past Basilone Field, you'll see that there's quite a bit of work going on there, both on the grandstands and on the field house. Work for that is due to be completed at the end of the summer. I believe they're delivering the aluminum for the new grandstands on July 7th and 8th, and then that will go up in a matter of weeks. So work is progressing pretty quickly over there. Every school in the district is getting a security vestibule. I take that back. The high school is not, that's another case, but every primary, intermediate, middle school is getting a security vestibule installed. Middle school bathrooms are being gutted as we speak, right? That's phase one of the project. If anyone has visited one of the middle school bathrooms, I don't think being pulled up, and that's going on as we speak. Windows phase one. And the Windows Phase 1 project will happen at Hamilton School, JFK, and Van Holten. And Phase 1 of the HVAC project will begin in those 3 schools as well. And the reason is that all 3 of those schools have the same footprint. So that was the place where our architects and we decided to start. And then Phase 2 and 3 will be starting soon after. And look, we'll provide updates as we get them, but it's an exciting time. And I know I see Kevin back here. I know he's going crazy, going around making sure that the systems are operational for those secure vestibules. It's not just the security of the vestibule, but the technology that we have for the buzzers, the cameras, et cetera, that all has to be integrated. And I applaud the efforts of our tech team for really helping to lead that project. And as we talk about what's going on right now, you should know that we're in the process of planning for 6 months from now and a year from now as well. One of the major items that is going to be on the agenda over the summer is we have a scheduled date in front of the planning board for the municipality, and that's on August 6th at 7 o'clock. And it's a courtesy review, and it's for the middle school edition for the 6th grade wing that's going to be going on. And again, we go in front of the planning board, and they're able to ask us questions. The architects will be there as well, and then we'll move forward. But it's right about the time that we're going to put this out to bid as well. And there's one final thing I wanted to go over. So at the end of the year, I also sent a letter of thanks to Mayor Monch of Bridgewater Township, Tim Ring, who's the Township Council President, and the Chief of Police, John Mitzak. Really thanking them for the collaborative spirit that we had all throughout the year with our security and our SROs and Class 3 officers. I'll just read a little bit, the first few paragraphs for you, and I signed this and sent this to them as, again, a letter of thanks. I said the purpose of this correspondence is to personally commend the outstanding work of our district security team, specifically our school resource officers and Class 3 officers who visit our schools every day. In an ever-changing landscape of security challenges, their professionalism, vigilance, and commitment to fostering a secure learning environment are an invaluable asset to our community. I want to take a moment to applaud the ease of communication our two school resource officers have demonstrated with our district administration, security leadership, and campus monitors. Anthony Melito and Brian Eitner have worked seamlessly with our district security team to share information, coordinate efforts, all in the name of student safety. Had high expectations for the level of collaboration possible between the school and the Bridgewater Police Department, and these two officers have exceeded our lofty expectations. Our Class 3 officers, Mark Christensen, Chris Fisher, and Kurt Bernhardt, also provide an integral part of our overall security profile. Working collaboratively with our security leadership, they consistently provide much-needed security coverage to the 10 schools located in Bridgewater Township. And kudos to the Bridgewater-Raritan police leadership for providing opportunities for training and for participating in district-sponsored training, including active shooter emergency response, evacuation and reunification drills working directly with OEM personnel, crossing guard trainer, and an active shooter incident management course that would be held at the high school in July. We're looking forward to future plans with school staff and your officers utilizing our school buildings for emergency response training. We hope to continue this partnership to benefit the students, employees, and parents who represent our school community. I'm always available to discuss how we can enhance our operations and how we can continue this positive relationship between law enforcement and the school community. Have a great summer. So that went out to those folks, again, as a letter of thanks. And we really did have an excellent year with our security staff as well as the officers from Bridgewater PD. The reason I didn't mention the Raritan Borough Police Department is that we don't have SROs or Class 3 officers that are paid for through Raritan Borough. Instead, and it's just as effective, anyone that they have on patrol visits our schools as part of their patrol and walks the halls on a consistent basis. So we ended the school year, as you know, on a high note. Hopefully we started a new tradition at Rutgers University by having graduation at Jersey Mike's Arena. I think it was quite fitting, where it was probably the hottest day of the summer thus far. I think if we had taken a poll during the ceremony to say who wants to move it back to the field on a day like today, I think it would have been overwhelming to keep it at Jersey Mike's. So we do intend to continue that tradition. The only thing that could be a sticking point in the upcoming years is that one of these years, whether it's next summer or the summer after, they're going to do a massive renovation of that facility. So even though we want to continue this partnership, there may be a year in the next 2 to 3 where it is back at our place. So that's it. So that's it for tonight. Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Beers. To follow on that, I think it's been, I'd like to thank the staff, the community, the students. I think we've had a pretty good year. You know, I mean, was it perfect? No, but we've made steps and evolutions moving forward. The final of the third referendum vote happened in November, where, you know, after 30 years of talking about it, 20 years of maybe moving forward, 10 years of since I got on the board to have, we now are going to have full-day kindergarten operational in 2 years. And so that's very important. And the referendum also helps put us in a place where, as the school year's kind of gotten longer, when I was a kid, you went back after Labor Day and you got out of Memorial Day and you had a full 12-week summer. It's a little shorter now. Air conditioning and with global air conditioning wasn't always needed, so we're getting that. So our environments for kids are great. Again, following up on graduation, I think it was a wonderful privilege that the board members are there, and Mr. Joshi gave a rousing speech, and the student speeches were amazing at the Jersey Mike's Arena. The high school was a little bit not so. It was warm. It was a very warm and enriching environment for the middle school graduation. So, you know, when I had perspiration, dripping off the back of my ears, so it was quite warm. So, but I enjoyed it and seeing all the kids and smiling faces. So thank you. We've made great progress towards our district goals. And so it's kind of nice to say how we're doing with those district goals. So we optimize the conditions for learning, implementing effective instructional practices that support all students. I think we've represented that in many areas. The staff and the administration brought that forward and being seen on the schools. We've ensured a health and safety environment by refining operations, providing opportunities that foster students and staff social emotional well-being. I think we've addressed that in all situations, both curricularized operations, communication, and programs we brought in. Ensure equitable allocations of all district resources to support the district's mission and goals, including access and utilization of grade-level materials and resources and programs. I think we've moving the needle there and getting better. So we're not perfect, but we're moving forward to those goals, making good progress. So thank you to everyone who was involved with that, the staff, the community, and the students and the board. So we also have been doing well as a board. So moving forward, looking at district goals coming up. So we have a little bit of vacation, but we're going to come back in August and look at district goals, which guides goals. We've been doing a great job on policy. I want to thank everyone for doing that. I think we did an admirable job supporting the referendum in November. It passed. So we're done with that, moving forward. And supporting the strategic planning initiative to engage all community members in collaborative process for the improvement of our schools. We went through the process, the strategic planning. I think you got it moving forward. I'm sure the board should continue to review those areas and our goals from that and the actions as well as it helps drive our decisions moving forward. And as any plan, it's only as good as using that plan to move forward. So, and a plan can change. So I'm very excited about the year we've had. So thank you all. And relax this summer. We only have one meeting next month and one meeting in August, but I can tell you our staff is busy at work. As you see all the buildings being worked on, the staff is working in other areas in curriculum and technology and hiring and best practices there, so they're very busy too. So I wish you a good summer and also get some vacation. And that's all I have. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is committee reports. Mr. Joshi, Academic Committee.
Next meeting's this Thursday, June 27th, virtually at 5:30.
Community Relations, Ms. Calistri is not here. I'm sure it's still to be determined. Thank you. Finance, Facilities, and Transportation, that's Mr. Singer. We have it on July 15th. I'm not sure it's virtual or in person. It would be July 15th. Virtual? In person? Okay, thank you. Personnel Committee, Ms. Freelander.
Yeah, looks like I'm the only one tonight. Let me just make this lower so it doesn't sound like I'm shouting. Okay, so we met on June 18th at 5 p.m. In attendance was myself, Mr. Pepe, Ms. Lee, Mr. Walker, Mr. Fonder, and Mr. Beers. First, we went over the draft for the personnel addendum, which is before you this evening. The committee supports the action items. Next was the Comprehensive Equity Plan Statement of Insurance. Committee discussed this equity plan and the need to approve a statement of assurance for 2024-2025. The committee supports this action item. Any questions on that? Okay. Security personnel was next. Mr. Fonder, Mr. Beers discussed the security personnel needs for next school year. Recommended staffing levels. The committee members asked questions about the different security positions in our schools, and the committee supports the security staffing plan. Next up was a policy review. In continuing our policy review of the 1000 series, we looked at 1310, 1320, 1350, and 1400. The committee discussed these policies from that series, and no changes were recommended and no action was taken. There were some walk-in items. Mr. Pepe had brought up some language regarding policies 0164 and 0171. And we talked about it would be a situation when neither the president or vice president is in attendance at a Board of Education meeting. This is something that will be looked at with the Strauss-Esme and will be a future personnel agenda item. Mr. Fonder also provided good news on some of our teachers, including there was an instance where we're waiting for an update on approval of an H-1B visa, which has been approved. We adjourned at 5:32 p.m., and our next meeting is not until August 20th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Freelander. Are there any delegate or liaison reports? Mike, no history lessons tonight?
Nothing tonight.
Nothing, all right, just checking. Lucy, anybody else? So, thank you. Item 9, open to the public, action items only. Individuals and/or groups are invited to present their concerns, comments, and requests regarding the following action items to the Board of Education at this time. In accordance with board policy, members of the public are allotted one opportunity to address the board for a maximum of 5 minutes during this period of the meeting. Please be advised that a video recording of this meeting will be posted on the district's website. Okay. Seeing none. Item 10, approval of minutes for June 11th, regular and closed session. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Patty, can you call the roll, please? So, yeah, no problem. So, no. The first public comment section, let me explain it. So the first public comment section is for the action items that we're doing. The second public comment session is that. So yeah, it usually moves pretty quick. So you give us a few, 10, 15 minutes somewhere in there. We'll be right. All right, thank you. I appreciate you coming and being patient. For those who arrived at 6:30, I appreciate you also. But you know, it's a business meeting too, so thank you. After that, go.
Mrs. Freelander?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Joshi?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mrs. Hasuna?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes. Motion passes. Personnel 24-40 through Personnel 24-42. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Rogers, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Freelander?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Yoshi?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mrs. Hasuna?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes. Motion carries. Curriculum 24-71 through Curriculum 24-72. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Rogers can call the roll, please.
Mrs. Freelander?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Joshi?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes on curriculum 2471. Abstain on curriculum 2472.
Mrs. Hasuna?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes. Motion carries. Business 24-155 through Business 24-166.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, I would like to have a question.
Can you speak into the mic because you need to be a little closer?
Okay. Is it better now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. If I can get some understanding of business 24-160, do we know how much we're transferring to our capital reserve account?
Not until the audit is complete.
Sorry?
Not until the auditors finalize.
So we don't know yet?
Yes, not at this time.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? I'd like to take this opportunity. We have many gifts which are wonderful that come to the district. The CRIM PTO for the field trips to the Building and Wellness Initiatives for CRIM PTO. We have the field day and T-shirts for the staff and students from CRIM Primary, from Pratt Personal Training, Jim in Martinsville. There are 51 relay jackets for the Bridgewater Athletic Department from the Panther Athletic Club, and also 35 pink jerseys from the Bridgewater Athletic Club, and that goes to the volleyball team. So thank you for those gifts. Any other comments? Ms. Rogers, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Freelander?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee?
Abstain on 160. Yes to other.
Mr. Joshi?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mrs. Hasuna?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes. Motion carries. Special Services 24-40 through 24-49. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, but I think the settlement agreements, those areas would have to be done in closed session. Seeing none, Ms. Rogers, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Freelander?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Joshi?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mrs. Hasuna?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes. Motion carries. Other 24-48 through other 24-52. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion where the items do not need to go into closed session, which would be the HIB investigation reports?
I would like to discuss the calendar if we can.
Sure.
So I was curious, can you remind us what is the revision from last time what is the revision that needs to be updated at this point?
The revision is that we were off on October 31st for Diwali, and I believe it is now being recognized on November 1st.
Yeah, and I think that was in gold notes, correct?
Yes.
So it was documented in gold
Right.
notes. Okay, I'm sorry. So there was we had the calendar set up for, what was the holiday, Steve?
Diwali.
Diwali on October 31st, and so we moved it, it was actually on November 1st, correct? And
Yes.
the board was notified of that. We get an update with notes from the superintendent in gold notes, and that was documented in there.
And Mr. Beers, I double checked, and it is, the first is correct.
So we're in good shape.
Depends on which calendar, but most are on the first. Some are on the 31st, most are on the first. So we're good.
Gotta say, the day after Halloween, it just works out really well. Obviously, Diwali's important, but the day after Halloween, that's also a Friday.
Some
It
people
is a little
wanted,
bit of a boon.
some people wanted the
For-
31st.
does work
because
out
of
this year.
Halloween.
If you celebrate Halloween. All Souls Eve and All Saints Day on another religious calendar, too. So, any more discussion?
When I noticed that the snow take-back day is now only January 29th, that's for the Chinese Lunar New Year, or the Lunar New Year per se, do we cover ourselves enough with just one day of snow take-back day?
I think there are two.
There's one now. If you see at the bottom left.
I gotta find it, too.
There shouldn't be a change to the snow give back days because we just shifted a holiday from one day to the other. So there's no difference in give back days or anything like that. It was literally moving Diwali from October 31st to November 1st. That's the only change.
Okay. There still is just only one snow take-back day. I don't know if that's going to be sufficient. That's my concern.
There are actually two, if you look at the calendar, the bottom right-hand corner, it says superintendent will close schools on the following days if snow days are not used, Monday, April 21st, and Friday, May 23rd. Am I correct? And that's what was approved in the board calendar previously.
The
So the only
inclement
modification
weather.
with the board's calendar was moving Diwali, correct, Mr. Beers? Okay. So this is just one change to the board calendar, which had been board approved 18 months ago.
I'm
March.
referring to the column on the bottom left. That's the snow or the inclement weather take-back day. Means that a scheduled off day needs to be open if there's excessive snow days that was used or inclement weather day that was used.
Correct. And that was the same as what was approved 18 months ago. This board calendar for this school year was approved March of 22,
Yeah.
March or April 22.
I'm raising the concern whether one day is enough.
I'm still confused where I'm seeing two.
You're looking on the right side. She's looking on the left side bottom.
But if you add them together, there's 3 days, correct? They can be used.
No.
Oh, no, you know what, you know what you're
yeah, it's
talking
not the
about
snow
here,
give back
Lucy.
days.
It's not the give back days. Let's
Take
say
back
we,
days.
we burn
Yeah.
through all of our snow days by January 29th. I'm sorry. If we utilize all of our snow days early, we can open school on Wednesday, January 29th. That's what that means. So it's not a give back day. It's,
Because right now, that's a day off.
I'm sorry, I was
Thank you,
confused.
Bob.
I just had a question on the security drill report. It just made me think of something. Are schools sending home notices for security drills? 'Cause I know some schools in the States have been. They've been getting those. Just curious. Thanks. Emails.
Yeah, we got an email from the school letting us know
From the
that a drill has taken place, and usually
Got it.
pretty quickly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You know, I that's what I expected. I knew it was relatively new, though, so I thought I'd ask. Thanks.
Any more discussion? Ms. Rogers, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Freelander?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Joshi?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
On other 2449, abstain on 266306, and no on 266707. Yes on everything else.
Mrs. Hasuna?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes. Motion carries. Policy 24-30. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Rogers, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Freelander?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee?
No.
Mr. Joshi?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mrs. Hasuna?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes. Motion carries. Item 12, open to the public. Individuals and/or groups are invited to present their concerns, comments, and requests to the Board of Education at this time for any matter. In accordance with board policy, members of the public are allotted one opportunity to address the board for a maximum of 5 minutes during the period of the meeting. Please be advised that a video recording of this meeting will be posted on the district's website. And I please ask that you state your name and town of residence when you do it. Thank you.
Good evening to the board. My name is Aisha Williams. I'm a resident of District 13 in Bridgewater Township. I speak tonight to emphasize the need for increased education and programming in our school district in the areas of diversity and inclusion specific to race and ethnicity. I made a prior public statement to the board on this topic in May, and I'm compelled to reinforce this need given clear and escalating instances of negative student experiences in these areas across our district. At that time, I shared that I am a mother of children who have experienced repeated, disparaging, racially charged remarks across their experience in our district in schools at the primary, intermediate, middle, and high school levels. It is important that the board understand the hurtful nature of these remarks, not for sensationalism, but to bring the experience of my children and others to life for our superintendent and elected school board. In our experience, my child has been told that his skin is the color of excrement. When entering the school bus, my child was told, "Get to the back of the bus. Get back to where your people belong." On the playground, a child saw a piece of curved plastic on the ground, picked it up, and said, "Come over here so I can whip you, like we used to whip your people back in the day." In math class, when raising a point on an assignment, my son was told, "Shut up, you stupid N-word." And in recent weeks, a child told my son, "You monkey, get back to work, get back to the fields." When I share these experiences with other parents, friends, and families, they are appalled. They tell me how sorry they are to hear that our children have these experiences, and then they go home. For my children, these words cut. They stick with them. they internalize them, and they believe that their only choice is to accept them. So much so that my son told me, "Mom, talking to the school won't do any good. When these kids say these things to me, all I can do is pretend that their words don't hurt me and hope that they will stop for a little while." I refuse to accept my son's assessment as the best that this school board, district, and parents can do. I ask more of all of us on this clear issue within our district. Some may say, well, file a harassment, intimidation, and bullying report. To this I say, yes, but this mechanism does not substitute the need for definitive and purposeful school board action and programming to address this clear undercurrent within our school district. On June 7th, Principal Tally Axelrod sent a letter to the parents of Hillside Intermediate School, speaking of the upswing in racial and hurtful name-calling at Hillside School. In this letter, Dr. Axelrod states that comments make our students feel put down or shut out and that they don't belong here. She stated that our students learn best in environments that foster respect and celebrate diversity. She asked for families to help to ensure that no student experiences racist language or denigrating name-calling within the school district. She asked that families assist in countering this type of speech by helping children understand that racist language and name-calling of any kind will not be tolerated at the school. I fully accept Dr. Axelrod's request of our family, and I likewise request that our school board do the same. So what is my specific ask? My family asks that the school board take definitive action to increase education and programming in the areas of racial and ethnic diversity and inclusion starting in the fall of 2024, and that the board formalize an objective on fostering respect for racial and ethnic diversity within the district strategic plan. Goal 1 of the newly developed district strategic plan is student experience. It says to create a culture encouraging diversity, including cultural competency. Yet the stated objectives for this goal do not specifically mention nor insinuate any objectives related to racial and ethnic diversity. It speaks to equitable programs and services, to interdisciplinary and experiential learning opportunities, a rigorous curriculum matching student abilities, and the recruitment of representative staff. Given the clear upswing of discriminatory events noted by Dr. Axelrod at Hillside and those experienced by my children and others, adding a definitive and specific objective of fostering acceptance and respect for racial, ethnic, and other forms of student experience is critical. I offer my time and expertise to support the board with ideas, with content, and through bringing parents together to make this increased education and programming a reality for our students. And I will do all that I can to hold myself, this board, and others accountable for this action because our students deserve it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Monique Thomas. I come to you today not as a parent that has personally experienced racial discrimination, but as a concerned parent and a friend of many families that have. I also come as a representative to Luz and Eugene Taiwa, who could not be here today because they are out of state. Their daughter, who recently, very recently, experienced racial hate at Eisenhower School, was called a nigger and told to go back to the field while making whipping motions for accidentally touching a student with her hair. The area that I would like to discuss today is consequences. I believe that the school system needs to set the tone at the beginning of the year that racial discrimination and any discrimination will not be tolerated. And consequences such as suspension or detention should be known and communicated, so perhaps these children will think twice before spewing hate. We need to make sure that all of our children feel safe and empowered in school, and that by accidentally touching another student, even after apologizing quickly, will not result in hate. Another factor that I found interesting in this case is that the school administration would not disclose what the consequence was for the student that was found guilty of this act. I think it's important to be transparent, and even if it's just for ease of mind, that parents involved should be made aware of exactly how the school is handling these situations. I have 4 kids in this school district in 3 different schools. I'm dreading that one day one of my kids will come home with a similar story. I want to feel confident that the school has my back and will not tolerate hate in any form. I think this can be done with preventative measures such as programming. I believe one missed opportunity was on Juneteenth. All of my kids were in school that day, and not one of the teachers made any acknowledgments of the day and its significance. Educations and consequences for actions are key. And just to reiterate the ask that we're asking of the school district, take definitive action to increase education and programming in areas of racial and ethnic diversity and inclusion starting in the fall of 2024. And that the board formalize an objective on fostering respect for racial and ethnic diversity within the district's strategic plan. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Davenport. I live here in Bridgewater. I am the mother of Andre Langston, a recent graduate of the middle school. We moved to the district in 2019 with high hopes for the educational opportunities it promised. Today, I am here to reflect on my son's experiences, particularly the unfortunate and troubling incidents he's endured. To date, Andre has been the subject of 5 harassment, intimidation, and bullying investigations, all racially driven. Initially, I believe these incidents were isolated and would pass. However, by the 5th investigation, it had become a distressing routine for us. On February 13th, 2024, I sent a message to the superintendent to bring attention to a pressing situation. Instead of addressing it directly, my email was rerouted back to the principal, effectively dismissing my call for action. My intention was not to place any blame on the middle school administration, but it was to seek intervention. Unfortunately, my plea was ignored. As I stand here today, I must emphasize that there is a systemic problem within this district, one that extends beyond that administration. It is my understanding that the school board reviews these HIB claims and decides whether a student is a victim. My child has had 5 in 5 years, 2 of which we were COVID at home. At what point will this district board and administration acknowledge the pattern and implement necessary changes? I have decided to leave the district due to these incidents and the district's failure to protect my child. Andre's experience has been traumatic and overwhelming for our family. We chose Bridgewater for its reputed school district, but statistics fail to reflect the racially driven HIBs that occur here. My request today is for their district to begin tracking these trends and make them public. Families should be informed about the environment their children will face. Furthermore, I urge the district to take proactive measures to prevent such behavior. This includes educating students and implementing stricter punishments. My son has been a victim of hate speech, and despite a proclaimed zero tolerance policy, no action was taken because no other student could corroborate his story against a known bully at the school. What is the tolerance threshold? The message conveyed to my child was very disheartening. His voice doesn't matter, it's acceptable to be threatened, and he is not protected. So in closing, I implore the board to recognize these issues and take concrete steps to ensure no other child has to endure what Andre has experienced. We need transparency, accountability, and a commitment to a safe and inclusive environment for all students. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Williams, and I have been in the Bridgewater District for 26 years. Today I stand before you as a concerned parent and an ordained minister. In our great nation, we begin each school day with a powerful statement of unity and justice, the Pledge of Allegiance. Let us reflect on those words for a moment. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. These words are more than a daily practice. They're a promise that every child in our school deserves liberty and justice. Yet we know that for many of our students, this promise remains unfulfilled. Racism and inappropriate language towards our students are pervasive issues that undermine their education and their well-being. As we confront these challenges, I'm reminded of the powerful words of Shirley Chisholm, the first African-American woman elected to Congress. She said, "Service is the rent that you pay for a room on this earth." Our service as parents, educators, and leaders is to ensure that every student feels seen, safe, valued, and respected. It is our duty to pay this rent by addressing and eradicating the racism that poisons our classrooms and our hallways. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once declared, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." This profound truth calls us to action. When any student faces discrimination and hostility, it is not just their problem, but our collective problem. It is a threat to the very fabric of our educational system and the moral integrity of our society. We must not remain silent or passive in the face of such injustice. Instead, we must actively work to create an environment where every student can thrive. In our quest to address these issues, let us also draw inspiration from Mother Teresa, who dedicated her life to serving the marginalized and the oppressed. She reminds us, if we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we all belong to each other. Our students belong to us, and we belong to them. We must foster a community of love, respect, and understanding, where differences are celebrated and every child is given an opportunity to succeed. Therefore, I urge the members of the board to take decisive action and implement comprehensive racial and ethnic diversity inclusion training for all staff and students. Create policies that hold individuals accountable for using inappropriate language and engaging in discriminatory behavior. Promote a curriculum that reflects the diverse history and contributions of all races. And most importantly, listen to the voices of all of our students and their families. Let their experiences, their voices guide our efforts. Together, let us fulfill the promise of liberty and justice for all. Let us serve with dedication that Shirley Chisholm envisioned. Confront injustice with the courage of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and create a community of belonging as Mother Teresa envisioned. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Leamy, and I am a resident of the Bridgewater district. I have 4 children, 3 of which are in 3 different schools within Bridgewater, and one who will be in the district in another 2 years. I have not personally experienced any of the horrific incidents that some of our fellow friends have. However,
I am coming to you as a concerned parent as well, but also as someone who is an educator who is in a rather large district as well, Old Bridge High School. And I can say that it does come from home, what is taught at home, and education is coming from within the school. We are educators. We are here to educate our students on what they may possibly know a little bit about, but give them more in-depth history. And of course, a lot comes from at home. I understand Rome was not built overnight. The pyramids were not built overnight, but we do have to take a step somewhere. So I am coming as not just a parent, but also as someone who is on the other side, who works for the school. Some of the things that we do in our district, and like I said, it is a rather large district as well. We hold assemblies for our students, at the minimum, once a marking period, in an auditorium or a gym, because we have about 2,400 students at the high school level. If I didn't say, I am a high school teacher and I teach business courses. And we talk about very sensitive issues. Suicide, because that is a big one that has now come about for teens, especially with all the social media and things of that nature. And I think that that's a start for us to point out these objectives that we have out there in regards to educating our students, talking about sensitive matters. And I think it's better that we get ahead of it. Mrs. Williams stated that she thought it was a great idea for us to start this in the fall of 2024. We just recently had a teen suicide because of bullying. Nobody wants to have anyone's thought of their child's death on their hands or thoughts because their child was being bullied. And I think no matter what the situation is, even if they're bullying, it has nothing to do with race, but if it starts with race or anything else, that is something that we want to take a stand on and we want to jump in front of it. I teach students of all different ethnicities, backgrounds. I am very close with my students. Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, all of them. Okay, and I don't believe that kids are brought into this world, birthed as racist. I believe a lot of the kids, they don't understand what it is that they're saying. And I talk to my principals, my vice principals, because I'm very close with them. And I said, it starts with education. When things like this happen, yes, they are suspended. But I think more importantly, besides withholding them from school, educate them, have them write papers, understand why does this word or why is it that whatever it is said to students, why is it so bad? I think a lot of it comes from education. And if we work together and we have some type of meeting or just start it off with at least an assembly, giving that education, it has to start from somewhere. Again, as I state before, my kids have not experienced this, but I am someone who believes that we can make a change, and I hope that you are willing to put forth some effort in creating what needs to be created and making this change going forward. Thank you for your time.
Any further public comment? I'm going to thank you all for coming and speaking. Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Thank you. We're now up to old business. Is there any old business? Is there any old business? Seeing none, is there any new business?
You could go first, Lucy. I'm sorry. No, I know this is out of line. I'm just trying to digest a lot of what I've heard, and from me, I want to tell all the folks here in the audience tonight that our aim is to have your children to have the best possible learning experience they can have, right? And I hear what everyone has said. And as a district, we do take this very seriously, and we've done quite a bit to provide programming, et cetera, to address these issues. Obviously, it's not enough, right? And I hear what you're saying. It's not enough. But what I do want to say is that you don't have to motivate us to address this issue. And I appreciate just how everyone has spoken to us tonight, and your kindness and sincerity, and I mean that sincerely. And I think someone said at the end, we don't have a magic wand, right? None of us have that, and this is a long process, and nothing's foolproof. But we certainly share your goals, and I just want to say that publicly, that I do, and there's nothing that I disagree with you about as far as what you want to see happen. When it comes to programming, et cetera. Now, how we go about that, we may disagree, right? But again, these are issues that certainly are on our radar, and we're not even tackling, making sure that Bridgewater-Raritan is, that there's equality for every student in this district, no matter what race, religion, et cetera. And we've said over and over, no matter if you're a student who enters our schools at Hamilton School or JFK School or what have you, we want to make sure that you have the same environment, the same opportunities to grow and to be your best self. So again, I appreciate the comments, and I appreciate the decency that everyone portrayed tonight. Sure thing.
I just wanted to quickly pipe in as well, because I spoke with, it's Ms. Williams in the spring actually about the same topic. And so one of the speakers mentioned that, it's important, I love this, what you said, that it's important for all students to feel seen, safe, I missed one of the words, and valued, and I completely agree with that. We agree with that. And when I spoke with Mrs. Williams in the spring, we talked about all the different subpopulations and minoritized groups that we have, and the importance for all kids to feel that they're safe at school and that they're represented in our curriculum and in our resources, because that's how they access learning. And I talked a little bit about some of the things that we are doing, and this is not in any way suggesting that we can't do more and we shouldn't do more, because as Mr. Beers just said, we recognize it, and I actually took some notes for ideas as you were speaking. But, there's a diversity, equity, and inclusion mandate by the state, and so we're required at a state level to integrate it into the curriculum, and it's integrated into the curriculum. We, I think, have done a pretty good job with resources, because that's been something that's been important to us for many years now, that we're getting, when we review resources, we're looking that they're representative of all students, that they are culturally, linguistically sensitive materials. I think we did a particularly good job actually in the elementary school with some of the literature units, because it's all focused on, there's a multicultural and diversity aspect to it, where we're making sure that the authors that we have, the stories that we tell, are representative of all students, because we talk about in education windows and mirrors, and it's the idea that mirrors, you want to be able to see in the resources that we use, like you looking back at you, that you're being represented, but we also want to provide, and I think this is really important for the discussion that you just had, windows, so that all students have a better understanding of other people, so that they can be accepting and responsive, and so that everybody does feel safe. So it's resources, it is curriculum. We have done professional development. We've been doing ongoing professional development actually with staff, and it is cultural competency. Our entire staff actually of 1,000 people have been trained at this point, but it has not been specific to race and ethnicity, which is what I heard. It was really, as we've changed our ESL program and spread like our ESL into all the schools, we wanted to make sure that all teachers were, had an understanding of how to teach multilingual learners and support the different learning needs of people who come from different cultures or have different languages. So that's certainly an area to work on. Data as far as student achievement, when we're doing reports throughout the year, this is something we really carefully look at. And that's why we changed a lot of our programming, and we changed the way that we provide access to programming. We provided the PSAT for all students. All of these things were driven, and our change that we did in the gifted and talented program in the primary school, all these changes were driven by the fact that we did see some disproportionality in our data. And so we don't want to see disproportionality in the data, and we've seen that it's beginning to move in the direction that we would want it to. Is there still work to be done? Absolutely there is. And then finally, I think the last piece, because I'm not going to really go into the reactive disciplinary piece, because I'm curriculum and instruction, but is the character education program. And that's another area that we have been working on. And I would say truthfully, at the intermediate school and the middle school this year, we don't do, it hasn't been through assemblies, but we are teaching the CASEL competency and character education through the counselors generally in health classes where they push into classes. But this is something that was done monthly really in the primary grades. And then as you kind of moved up into the intermediate and middle school, that wasn't as consistently being done. And so this year we really did actively push towards increasing that, but in many cases we were designing lessons that were somewhat reactive to some of the things that we heard or that we saw through HIB reports, or just were things that we were discussing. That's something we're working on this summer. We're actually in the process of doing summer curriculum writing, so we're creating lessons. And as I said, at some point we have a K-4 resource, but we're working on adopting a 5-8. We have not started that process yet. When we do, we plan to involve parents in that process, as we do when we're adopting new resources. We take feedback from all our stakeholders. So that's where we are, but I certainly hear what you're saying, and I agree with everything Mr. Beers said as well, so thank you.
Thank you, Karen and Mr. Beers. New business? Ms. Lucy, Ms. Lee?
I want to tag along on what Mr. Beers and Ms. Jones was saying. Thank you for coming out to speak with us. I think that the incidents that you shared that your children have experienced, I feel there must be a lot of weight. I hope everything went fine. I hope that our school has a mechanism to support those kids for the negative experience that they've had. And I want to thank you for sharing with us your experience and your ideas today. Thank you.
I just had one comment. And as I was just putting my notes in my notepad on my computer, I did want to ask, I know that it is a weird time of year, but I have been asked in the past about what we do in school on June 19th for Juneteenth. I know unfortunately this year it was graduation, and next year it is scheduled to be the last day of school in a 4-hour session. But I know that it is an important day. And at that time of year, it is difficult to teach new concepts. Sometimes children don't want to put on their learning hats. But if we could find some way, since we are not off, to have some sort of district-wide Juneteenth celebration and not just rely on the county programming, it would certainly benefit so many kids. I know that I learned a lot myself this past year and the year before by attending the Juneteenth programs at Somerset County Courthouse, and I would love to see us try to do some more here.
Again, I would like to thank you for coming and speaking. It's a tough subject to address, and I appreciate your candidness and straightforwardness. The board takes this very seriously, as the administration said. You enlighten a lot of areas, and sometimes we need to, we will all reflect on this, both the district and personally. I have those, I ask everyone, and I think as Tammy said, it starts at home. Having a conversation with my daughter about it, she's out of school, but has been, those areas, please have that conversation with your kids appropriately. There is and that's we do our best. We're going to do better, and we're going to work on that. As Karen said, we have areas. But please, I ask you, please talk to your kids. You know, there's an appropriateness, and you know, you spend a lot of time with them. You know, we get to put down our phones, have that conversation. Like, how was your day? What was going on? How can we make it better? How do you cope with that? How do you bring it to the attention appropriately? So I want to say thank you. I wish everyone a good summer again. Take your time and break and relax, I know, and start anew come September. So thank you so much. And we're thinking about this.
I just at the board level, thank you everyone for coming. It means a lot. I know in the past the board has had, before I was on the board level training on this. Is there anything that the NJSBA offers specific to this topic? I think there had been a speaker a couple of months before I came on the board. Is that something to look into as we had next year, at least for this body?
That's actually a good idea, Mike, and following our goal to get certified board, that'd be a good area too, to look at and see how it falls in and what programs are available for both us and how we initiate them other places. And it's also talking to other board members how they do it. Other districts are addressing this situation too. How are steps they're working for them and be successful too. So having those conversations with your colleagues, but I will look into it with Gwen and the school association, get an ear and see if we can get done. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thanks.
We also get a lot of reports, so a little bit of information. The data is shared with us, so we get the information when you look at the HIB, and we should have a report out again on the, usually we do a report out on those areas and what are the main areas that are coming from different, both discipline and area and HIB, what the types, what they come from, what's their frequency. I think the climate survey, you know, we look at that, and the climate survey came up some information also to point in those areas. So we do look at it, you know, and both from a board level standpoint, we're not in the district every day, but we do work on the goals and make sure we move that forward. Our job is at a very high level, and so in our goals, I was looking at that we had that in our goals, and we reflect on that some more. But thank you.
One more comment. Sorry. Thank you as well for coming. The email that you mentioned that came from Hillside, I didn't get. My daughter's in high school, but I did see it posted on Facebook, and it was very moving. And I would love to see something like that to be shared with all of our students and parents as opposed to just one school, because it was very good.
Any other new business? Seeing none. We have to go back into closed session. I apologize. And we want to take no action after closed session, so I'm going to have to read a resolution here. Closed session. Whereas discussion by the board is required on matters that are an exception to the requirement that a public body hold its meeting in public, and whereas the topic of discussion is personnel, whereas it's expected that the details of the discussion may be made public as soon as the issue may be acted upon publicly, be it resolved the board enter into a closed session this time. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? We'll be entering a closed session. Thank you.